nice couple weeks off. We're here to you for a special episode today because there's been so much RSL news that we can no longer avoid talking about it. I just didn't want to be on the same platform as LD, who keeps on trying to tell the people I'm 5'6" and he's 5'8", because there might be some truth to the part where I'm 5'6", but there's no truth to the part where he says he's 5'8". That's total baloney. But we're joined here today by LD out there in the MLS Future Champions hometown of Miami. Is that true, LD? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. That is correct. Pretty excited for the game next weekend. I tried to get tickets for it, but this is why you guys know I'm a true RSL fan. I would have spent whatever possible to go to MLS Cup for RSL, but when I saw how much the prices ended up being for me to possibly get a ticket to go watch Inter Miami, for me the Eastern Conference Championship was just fine going to watch, and I'm good with that. So it'll be a good game though. I'm actually excited that Vancouver ended up being the Western Conference representative. I think it's the best challenge that Miami will get. So hope.
Oh, and he's gone. He got sick of us real fast. He's done. Maddie, how are you doing in St. Louis? Not an MLS Cup contending team.
Not a team that made the playoffs, shockingly.
No, no,
No,
shockingly.
everything's great out here, man. We had a little snowstorm. I was eager to hear what LD was going to tell us about how Miami handled the playoff and finals tickets and how much they would cost because I'm going to be there on Saturday, so I'd like to know just how in debt I'm going to get. But LD didn't want to talk to us and tell us, so
Maddie, that was going to be one of the first things I asked you. How you've been to so many MLS Cups. So question A, what number is this for you? Question B, how many consecutive?
15. I didn't go to 16. I went to 17, 18, 19. Couldn't go to COVID, and then
Yeah,
21, 22, 23, 24. So this will be my fifth consecutive, which is my, lengthening the streak
nice.
of the four teams that were left. This is the one I didn't want to go to. And
Yeah,
it's, you know, number one, I'm not a fan of Florida, having lived there for a long, long time. And number two, the circus that's going to surround it is unappealing to me. But,
yeah,
I go with a buddy of mine, a guy I used to play with. And if he had been like, hey, I don't want to go this year, I would have been like, I don't want to go either. But
yeah.
it's always good to catch up with him. We're friends from a long time ago.
Well, I mean, that makes absolute sense. I'm excited for you to be able to go. Hopefully, it doesn't put too much of a ding in your pocket. Probably will. But David, our new producer, how are you doing today?
All good. I've been a little bit bored on the weekends without like taking my wife to the one thing we like to do on Saturday nights, which is go to Real Salt Lake games. And yeah, I'm excited. I don't know if I'm gonna watch it. Depends on. I think it's at like 2 p.m., right? It's in like afternoon. If it's on, I'll
Yeah.
watch it. I'm rooting for Vancouver, and I think that it's the biggest surprise in MLS that they're representing the Western Conference, as their owners
Absolutely.
kind of don't even want to own them right now. So, yeah, it's going to be a great game and pretty excited to be here with you guys.
Well, that's awesome. I am excited for the game as well. We got the Golden Child back on. LD, we were interested to hear about the tickets before you dropped off because Maddie's going to be down there for the game.
Yeah, just I ended up jumping on the queue from the link that they sent out to all the season ticket members, and I think the cheapest when it got to my round, because they had different rounds of who was able to access the tickets. When I got to my round, it was about 350, or no, sorry,
Wow.
270. And so I was about to get the 270, but then the 270s went away pretty quick. So then I looked at the 350, was debating it, and at that point I was just like, honestly, I've loved watching them this entire season. They've been really fun to watch. I had an awesome experience at the Eastern Conference Championship game, but for me, I'm only gonna spend that type of money if it's a true, RSL or even like
Your
one of my
team.
other teams,
Yeah.
one of my teams from my other leagues to spend that money to go watch. And so for me, it felt better to just get with some friends, have a cool watch party to watch the game. And so that's what I'm gonna end up doing. But I was tempted though. I think it's gonna be a really cool experience, really awesome experience. to watch Messi in a cup final and Thomas Muller from the Vancouver side. But yeah, that's essentially what happened. It just came down to me not wanting to really spend more than $300 on a ticket for a team that I feel like I've been able to watch all season anyway. So I'm okay with just watching on TV.
Are you still able to get those tickets at that price? Because I'll take
No,
two.
it's crazy now. Yeah, it's crazy. What did you get? Did you end up getting tickets for it, Maddie?
No, the tickets don't go on sale to the general public until tomorrow at 10. So that's when I'll find out how in debt I might be going.
Oh, well, if you want to know, have you checked what the prices are currently at? You can't even see them yet. Okay, well, as of like last time when I checked, they were at like 780 for the cheapest one. So,
More or less what I'm expecting to spend.
yeah.
So like when
So-
we went to Seattle, I think was the most I've paid for a ticket. It was like $550 to be in the second row.
Yeah.
Atlanta was the cheapest, but we bought standing room only supporter section, which was don't ever do that if you go to Atlanta because you get squished out into the aisle and then security yells at you. Those were like $28 and we overspent. But
Well, let
usually
me
it's
give
like
you.
$400 or $500 for front row or close to it.
Well, I'll tell you this: the premier season ticket holders got first dibs, and I didn't really get much like observation of what was because I'm not in the premier or sorry, not premier premium section. I'm just in like the other general sections. But the general section when I jumped on, and I jumped on right as they sent the email and gave us the link to get on, there was 10,000 people already in the queue waiting for tickets. So I was like, holy cow. So anyway, when I left and then jumped back on later to see how much it was going to be for the general for the season ticket members who had opted out of playoffs. Because basically they said if you're a premium ticket member, you get first dibs. If you're a season ticket member that opted in for the playoff tickets, you get the next dibs. And then if you're a season ticket member who didn't opt in for playoffs, you get next after that. And then it's up to the general public after that. So when I went and checked in what the other season ticket members after me were, there was 32,000 people in the queue waiting. And as you know,
Jeez.
there's only like 20,000 people in that stadium that can fit. So I'm not really sure what's going to be left for the general public, to be honest, after what I saw. I don't know if maybe a lot of people went in and then just did what I did and saw that the prices were crazy, so they didn't buy. But, like, it was crazy, the queue line for the tickets. This was honestly crazier than when Messi came for the first time and they started giving away the Leagues Cup tickets. That was wild, insane. And I thought this was going to be less crazy than that because just it's kind of worn off a little bit as far as Messi being here, but when you put him in a cup final it makes sense that it's as crazy as it is. So yeah, you'll have to let us know what it looks like tomorrow because I'm interested.
Will do. Usually we end up buying on Friday. So it looks like what the tickets come out and they're crazy expensive and we look all around at what's available. But then throughout the week, the team will start releasing other batches of tickets as sponsors say they don't want to go or, sponsors have filled up whatever they can do.
Yeah.
We'd have to ask Brady exactly how the algorithms work, but it
Yeah.
seems like Friday morning is when we end up usually just buying our tickets, picking from what's available.
I'm hoping I'm still gonna keep my eye open like an hour before the game just to see if anybody is getting scared that they're not gonna sell their ticket and just drops it like crazy because I can get up there in an hour and watch it, So I'll be looking for that. I know a lot of season ticket members aren't happy with how they did it because they didn't let us reserve our seats of where where we sat. They didn't give us any first dibs to that. So there's a lot of angry season ticket members out there about how Inter Miami went about it. I don't know how it's gone in the past for other MLS clubs who have hosted it, but I do know there's a pretty big outrage on kind of how season ticket members feel like they've been treated, especially those who have been there since like 2020 when this team was just absolute dog trash. So I don't know what the pushback is going to be there and if it really does anything, but
I saw LA Galaxy fans saying they did get to keep their reserved seat last year.
That's
That was
typical.
going. I saw that discourse because I did see some Miami fans pissed off on Twitter today, and Galaxy fans were like, "Yeah, we got to keep our seats." I don't know if like LAFC did or anything like that, but it's kind of crazy to give season ticket members first right of tickets, but not just let them keep their current seats. I feel like if you opt into playoff tickets, the club's risking that they might make the final, and you're going to lose some money.
Yeah.
For your diehard fans. That's how it should be. So kind of weird that it only extended to the conference final.
Well, and this is unprecedented because like I understand that like Inter Miami fans should be pissed off about how they went about it. Also, no other club has had Messi before and had the opportunity to sell Messi, in a cup final. So like I get, and again, I'm gonna side with the fans, but like I understand why the club is doing the shady thing that they're doing because like they are trying to make top dollar with Messi being around for as long as he can be because the reality is gonna be he's gonna be gone at some point and at some point they're not going to be able to keep this momentum going without Messi. But however, it's going to screw over a lot of their support because if they're doing these fans dirty, you're hoping that those fans stick around after Messi leaves. And if these are the way you're treating those
Right.
fans, I don't think they're going to stick around or maybe be as committed as they are right now when Messi leaves. So it's a fine line, and I think I don't think they went about it the right way. So we
I
shall
mean,
see.
if you were an LA Galaxy fan when they had David Beckham, Robbie Keane, Landon Donovan, you got your seats. If you were a Seattle Sounders fan when they had Clint Dempsey and Obafemi Martins, all the players, you got to keep your seats, man. That's how
Yeah.
this works. It's mind-boggling to me that Miami fluffed that.
And again, I think Messi's a different, like a whole nother level compared to those players. But agreed. Like I think if you're gonna, consider nice Vancouver jersey, Maddie.
Thank you.
He was waiting for someone to mention it. Adami on the back. Love it.
Love that, love that. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it all plays out. It'll be interesting. But yeah, crazy stuff. Crazy MLS Cup.
Absolutely. Well, he's taken off his shirt. I just saw that man's nipples. Didn't need to see that. Glad there's not very many people in our live stream right now. Sorry, stalked into you. But let's go ahead and move on to the next subject. So MLS Cup, it's been an interesting playoffs. Nothing crazy unexpected other than obviously the Vancouver run was great. They have had a terrific season this whole year. When you actually say their playoff run, I'm like, I don't know if the playoff run is as unexpected because of how good they were this season. If you were able to adjust your expectations to what we've seen on the field, yeah, they're a fantastic team. So I'm excited for that MLS Cup final. That is this Saturday, I believe, at 12:30 Mountain Time. Yep, 2:30 local time, 12:30 Mountain, 11:30 Central Time, and 10:30 Pacific Time. So we've got everyone covered that might possibly be listening to this in America, except for Hawaii. I'm not going to do the math on you.
How did you do that math? It's 2:30 Eastern time.
That's what I said.
Yeah, then you said it was 10:30 Central.
Ah, that's on me. That is on me. I apologize for that grave mistake. That's not good. So that is 100% on me there. I do have bad math skills, even though I am now an educated man. That's fine. So let's just wrap up the 2025 RSL season real quick. We've talked about the MLS playoffs. Let's just go around, talk about what we saw from RSL. David, if you could get the table up, that would be fantastic for those on the live. We're going to start having more and more so you can actually watch. Hopefully we're a little bit entertaining to watch. That's the goal. But RSL finished this season making the playoffs in the 9th spot, so the very last spot in the Western Conference. They extended their 5-year playoff streak. It's the longest in the West. Is it all of MLS now that New York didn't make it, the Red Bulls?
We're the longest current streak, baby.
Longest current streak now that New York fell out of it this year. So RSL finishes at 41 points. They did have 12 wins, 5 draws, 17 losses. Most losses in a season since the 2005 season. This was about as up as down as it can get. We didn't draw a lot of games. If we weren't winning, we were losing. More often than not, we were losing, unfortunately. This season, it saw where RSL had a struggle with the transfer windows, both transfer windows. The summer one was definitely better, but we still don't know that we have a for sure DP out of that group. Now, Olatunji, not a DP, but a very, I think, solid prospect that we really like. Of course, he is just starting with the team, so we're, of course, going to have to see what he can turn into. The winter window, this was a mess. Cabral was the saving grace of it, if you can really say that. He's absolutely the star of this 2025 season. Without Cabral, we absolutely don't make the playoffs. We are probably fighting for the Supporters' Shield, and it's just not pretty. Cabral was one of the best goalie. This was one of the best goalie seasons we've ever had. Talked about how was this in terms of ranking seasons for RSL goalies. How good was it? Because obviously we had Raimondo, who can't be touched in terms of just how. Did I say supporter shield, Maddie?
You did.
You know that I meant wooden spoon. It's just, that's exactly. It's been a long time since we recorded.
We've
Give me
been
some
off for a
grace
little
today.
bit. We're good.
Give me some grace today. No, it would have been
We've got
wooden
you on a
spoon.
short leash, Hayden.
Yes, short leash. That's fair. But we did have a little bit of a debate on how good this goalkeeping season was because it was absolutely fantastic. It's really hard to obviously track because Raimondo had obviously a lot of time where the advanced stats aren't where they are today. Even though like Maddie hates advanced stats and he likes eye test way more, so Maddie can go back and tell us all the way back to 1985 who the best goalkeeping season had in MLS history, I'm sure. But in my mind, this was one of the best I've ever seen. Game after game, insane saves, absolutely fantastic. Took over the armband, and yeah. But out of a grade, if we just go A to F, that's what we're going to start with. I'll start mine off, and then we can start the discussion with Maddie after that. I'm going to give them a D, solid D. You made the playoffs, but that wasn't the expectation. After last season, the expectation was to grow on that. However, there was the need to replace a whole lot of goals and assists from the last season's attack with Gomez out in the summer window prior, and Chicho, of course, going to San Jose. So a whole lot of goals needed to happen. And we just didn't get those goals there. We didn't have a good enough offense. Our defense regressed quite a bit, which is what I thought we would be able to stand on. It was not a very good defense. Our center backs in particular didn't play as well as I thought they would be when they were playing together. And again, Cabral saved them a lot. We were one of the worst goals against teams in the league for XG. Except our actual goals against was about a 10-goal difference. That's how good he was. And so I think that this could have been a lot worse. You made the play-in. Again, you lost in the first round for the fourth year in a row. So it's just not good enough. We didn't do enough in the windows. And so that's why I give it a solid D. I was leaning towards D-, but because you make the playoffs, I guess you get to stay in that D. But my expectation was a top 5 seed and moving into the next round. However, of course, that was if you could get players in the winter window, and they didn't do that. So, LD, let's go to you next. What do you give this season on a grade?
You know, I think a D is a little harsh. I would say it's borderline. Like it's probably leaning more towards a D plus than a C, but I'm gonna say a C minus. The reason why I say that is because I think if you take it all into consideration, yes, they absolutely did not finish up to what the expectations were this season.
Right.
Yes, a lot of the play that we saw on the field wasn't very entertaining type of soccer, or at least the type that we got to see the season prior. Yes, there was a lot of letdowns when it came to the transfers that were brought in. And players that we thought should have taken a step up this season did not. So there was a lot to be negative on, or just to not be very happy about with this season. Let alone where we finished in the standings and how we did in the playoffs. But I do think you got to give some credit to Pablo for what he was able to accomplish with what he had available to him. And you could even say the lack of resources that he had available to him. I think you have to give some credit that we have found a very, 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 very good goalkeeper in Rafa Cabral, and the fact that he is someone that we can depend on going into next season and not have to worry about like this goalkeeper carousel. Loves Zach McMath, but I mean Cabral essentially played him into retirement. I know Zach was playing with some injuries as well, and dealing with some injuries, and that played into it. But I mean, the fact that Cabral just came in and really took that spot, and not only took that spot, but became a leader for this team, and someone that would be that can become a pillar for us, I think is huge. And so yeah, I don't know. There's a lot that can go into this, and I think a lot of the stuff that I'm gonna say will already be said by you and Maddie. But it was a disappointment. I agree. We shouldn't be getting knocked out in the play-in game for playoffs. we should be having higher aspirations for that. And I know the club does, but we also have to. We can't just talk about it. We have to do it, right? And so yeah, I'm gonna give it a C minus because at the end of the day, there were some things that they still accomplished this season with the players that they had compared to other teams in the rest of the league, but it's still just not good enough. And I think you can see that from the fan side of things. A lot of like, I hate to say it, but a lot of attention was kind of not there towards the end of the season. I think people were starting to get distracted by other leagues, by other things that they had going on in their lives, whether that was sports or whatever, because like the team just wasn't putting much out there to make you get really excited about. And so I think that's something that they need to understand going into next season, that there's a lot of fans that they still have to win over and bring belief back that they can be a team that can compete at a high level in this league. So, but yeah, overall C minus.
I think C minus is fair. I'll say C just to say something different, but I think D is incredibly harsh. When we started the season, I know we were all talking about fourth seed and a home playoff. What we didn't know at that time was that the team was being sold again for the third time.
Yeah, that's fair.
In like 5 minutes. So all of the offensive talent went out the door. The talent that was supposed to be coming in the door, either we couldn't get through. When we made those predictions, I know we were all very confident that Brian White was going to happen. He didn't. Then Ilias Manuel was supposed to come. He didn't. In the window, they tried to get Robert Bojnik. He was in Harriman at training on the last day of the window. I literally was talking to him and his agent as the deal was falling apart with Boa Vista. So with the holes that were in that lineup, front to back, and with, regression from Dominic Marchuk, who I've always been high on and who I still believe in, I think Pablo getting what he did out of this team is worth a C. The other thing is, I don't think anyone in their wildest dreams expected Diego Luna to burst onto the international scene the way that he did, even with his performance against Costa Rica in January camp. We couldn't have predicted that he was going to be a Gold Cup star and that he was going to be missing for all those games. How many games did we lose Diego for this year?
Yeah, quite a few.
And I'm super happy that Gozo dove into the breach left behind by Marchuk when Marchuk got initially injured, and Gozo jumped in, took his job, and wouldn't give it back. But now what? Now we're counting on a 17-year-old to carry the team. So I'm more optimistic for next year, but I think any grading of this season, we have to remember that there was an ownership change, that the previous owners, people in the team don't like when I say this, but I don't know how you can tell me I'm wrong. It looks to me like the previous owners cashed out. Sold all their players and said, sorry guys, whatever, I'm taking the money and going. I do know that, to be fair, very good authority, that they had a significant offer from Marchuk and didn't sell him because they thought those other players were coming in and they could do something with him. So,
right,
whatever that's worth.
I think those are all very fair asterisks to have on it, especially when not having solid ownership makes it very hard to sign players. We know that. We've had not solid ownership for a while. So it makes it very difficult. I think that the office, there's guys that they tried to make, and obviously Boa Vista. What are you going to do when the club gives the middle finger and now they're folding? Like, that's how bad of a club they were ran. So that one, you can't really blame on the front office. Very disappointing season still for me. With the players on the club, on the roster, I just felt like we saw so much regression from guys who I had higher hopes for. And there was obviously some bright spots. I think Junka, we haven't talked about. Bright spot. Guy came in, very good. Forced Katranis out of his position quite a few times throughout this year where it was, hey, is it 50-50 or is it Junka preferred? And Noel Caliscan, very big bright spot this season. Came in, played wherever he needed to be. Had a couple, had maybe one or two where it was like, okay, he doesn't play that often. But then he had somewhere it's like, he could be the main guy. I think Noel Caliscan was some of the reason that we struggled in some games because I think Pablo and coaching staff outthought who should be on the field for some of these games because of the decisions he was making. He forced a U22 initiative player to be sold or loaned out, Nelson Palacio, in the summer window. So there was obviously some bigger, brighter spots, and then there was some regression, especially across that back line. When you just look at the two center backs, Justin Glad and Brian Vera, there was a lot of expectations on them, and it really was, what is this offense going to be? And it turned into, okay, Cabral's saving every single game, and so that was a big one. So as soon as the season ended, we got right into the roster moves, everything like that. But we have Pablo and the front office getting their extensions announced. Now, we've kind of all known this for quite a while. We've been hinting at it. We've been basically saying everything except for the words, guys, they've already been extended. It happened back in the springtime. So it's been something. I don't know why they waited until now. It probably hurt the I think they were maybe waiting for things to get better, and then they just never did. And so they were like, okay, well, now we have to announce it. And it was a bet that didn't pay off. But Pablo Mastroeni, he's been to the playoffs every single year, and this isn't an extension like Jeff Cassar back in 2017, where he was essentially extended, and then, what was it, Maddie, 3 games into the season, fired? 4? That was disgusting. So my biggest thing is, hey, you choose to believe in Pablo, give him to the World Cup minimum. I would prefer not to fire a coach throughout the season. I don't think that really works too well, unless there is a guy that is the absolute perfect fit. Like, there's got to be a dang good fit to fire a coach throughout the season. I don't think it makes sense. I think that just wastes the season altogether. So Pablo Mastroeni, hopefully he'll be able to get it, and he won't even be talked about with the fans. I think that the current state of the coaching staff, from a fan base perspective, and obviously the key words there are fan base perspective. We're not talking about what the front office thinks or what ownership thinks, anything like that. They're out. The fan base right now is not all in on Pablo Mastroeni. It was very clear when this was announced on any kind of media platform. The overwhelming response was negative. Now, you're going to have that with a lot of different things, but it's what happens when you lose a lot of games, when you lose a lot of home games especially. And in the past, RSL was a team that didn't lose at home, and Dunny on broadcast says it all the time, that the Riot needs to get back to a fortress. We've been saying that for a couple years now. We really want to do that, and it was like, okay, let's see what we can do. 2023, I believe, we had a terrific home record. Last year, we were pretty good at home. This year, I believe we were almost a losing record. I think we were just barely above 500 at home. Wasn't great. Fans saw a lot of losses. So even the fans that are just more casually there didn't see this team perform all that well. LD, what did you think about the decision to extend the team, to extend the front office and the coaches?
Well, I'll talk from the coaching standpoint first. Listen, I have my issues with some things that Pablo Mastroeni does, especially when it comes to, certain substitutions he makes at pivotal points in the game, or substitutions that he doesn't make during pivotal points of the game. But overall, like, I do think the guy is punching above his weight class when it comes to what he has available to him on this team. And I think it's understandable, right? This team does kind of have a trend where you kind of can expect what's going to happen, right? They're going to make playoffs, and then they're going to get bounced, essentially, right? But I don't think that all falls completely on Pablo's shoulders. And
Right.
I say this to everybody else. Okay, you fire Pablo Mastroeni. Great. Who are you bringing in, and who's going to do a better job than him, right? Who's going to come up with the same results that he's been getting with the amount of resources that he's been having? Who's going to be able to manage this roller coaster that this club has been the last few years and still be able to make you get to the playoffs every year? Like, at the end of the day, yeah, it sucks. Maybe sometimes we're not feeling super confident going into the playoffs, but we are going into the playoffs, right? And again, I don't want that to be like we made the playoffs, so like everything is good. That's not the case whatsoever. But I don't think it's fair to assume that that's what Pablo Mastroeni thinks either, right? Do you think Pablo Mastroeni thinks that him just getting to the playoffs is going to keep him safe and keep him happy? And no, everybody knows that guy's personality. Everybody knows the type of coach he is. He's not satisfied with just making the playoffs, and he's been on record saying that multiple times. And I think he's genuine about that. I don't think that's just coach speak. And
Right. Oh no, he cut out again. But he'll come back in just a minute. Maddie, we lost him, but you actually just brought up a great point in the chat. Talk about the young guys and why you believe in Pablo.
I believe first of all, everything that LD said was perfect. And if you're not watching on YouTube, I'm over here doing the preach hand signs because he's just making solid point after solid point after solid point. No coach is going to do better with the players that Pablo has. And if you think that they will, just remember that most coaches would not have developed Luna the way that Pablo and staff were able to, let alone Anelli, Gozo, Kalaskin, insert name here. You can put a brick wall in the net. If you don't have a team in front of it, nothing good is going to come of it. So I think it's ridiculous that Pablo was ever considered to be on any sort of hot seat. I've always felt that his seat should remain icy cold, and that but I remember saying this about Petke too. You know, people are always like, oh, you know, Petke's terrible, Petke's terrible. And I'm like, great, who are you going to get? That doesn't matter. Yes, it does. Tell me who's going to do better. Tell me who's going to replace him. And when I had that online beef with another podcast who called me out, even though I thought we'd been having a private conversation, what started it was them. I said, you know, they said, what do you think of the podcast? I said, you guys are always bagging on Petke. Who do you want? And how are you going to feel when Pablo Mastroeni takes his job? Oh, it's not going to be Pablo. And I'm like, well, how do you think Petke got his job? They bring the guy who's going to take the head's job. That's what RSL did back then. I'm not saying that that's what they're going to do in this generation. We don't know what the Millers are thinking or what they're going to do. But back then, that's how RSL did their head coaches. You could see it coming a mile away.
Right. Audi, I want to jump back to you because we lost you during a very good, I don't want to say rant because that sounds negative, but you were cooking there. So finish your thoughts.
Oh, basically, at the end of the day, you know, I don't know what other, you know, possible option we had that could have made us do any better than what Pablo was already doing with his team. I know a lot of people like Wilfred Nancy. They think he's a tremendous coach. He really is. But I don't think if you swap Wilfred Nancy out with Pablo Mastroeni, that Wilfred Nancy even does anything better than what Pablo Mastroeni has. So as much as I understand that people have their issues with him and why they're upset with the results, I think you got to look at the big picture. And if you try to identify what the issue is, I don't think Pablo Mastroeni is the glaring issue. And I actually think we have seen what he does when he has, a talented roster and all things working for him. He gets you competing for top of the Western Conference and contending for the Supporters' Shield for a majority of the year. So that's my thoughts on Pablo Mastroeni. Now, when it comes with the FO, that's another discussion, right? That's a different discussion we can have. I wasn't a big fan of the FO and how they went about things. I know they like Kurt Schmidt over there. I'm sure he, does a great job at being able to, let's say, do the deal side of things and figure out ways that we can, get the best bang for our buck with whoever it is we're bringing in. But clearly there's some issues when it comes to who exactly it is that we're bringing in as a potential player, scouting, things of that nature. And that doesn't solely fall on Kurt, right? I think there's rumors saying that he's been having to do a lot on his own plate outside of just being, the technical director, general manager, or whatever it is, the title that we gave him.
Chief Soccer Operations.
Yes, sure, yeah. But I do think there's a little bit more finger pointing that could be said about, what he's done so far. However, I guess I'm just kind of, I'm still TBD on where we're at with him and how he fits within the FO. I think obviously bringing in Jason Kreis is going to change some things when it comes to, how he operates within the club. And then it sounds like they're going to be, expanding the scouting department and really trying to help us in that area to make sure that we're bringing in quality players so that hopefully all Kurt has to figure out is how can we get the best deal with whoever it is that we're bringing in and not necessarily him have to identify who we're bringing in and then having to negotiate and then do a bunch of other stuff that are not necessarily outside of his wheelhouse, but doesn't need his attention when he could be spending attention on just making sure that financially we're making smart decisions. So I think that's kind of where I'm at with the FO. And I guess I kind of made a segue there into announcing with the Jason Kreis announcement. But that's kind of my thoughts when it comes to that category of where we're at within front office leadership.
I'll give you one thing that Kurt did that a lot of other CSOs or insert job title name here wouldn't have done. You guys like Noel Kalaskin? because he wanted to leave, and Kurt talked him into staying. And I got that from Noel, and I got that from Kurt.
Very nice.
Yeah, Noel was frustrated that he didn't feel like he was breaking into the first team at the end of last season. And in the offseason, he went to Kurt and requested a loan. He put in his request for a loan to a USL team, and Kurt talked him into staying. Kurt said, "Hey, man," I don't want to say exactly what he said because that those parts of the conversation are off the record. But Kurt did a great job talking him into staying, and I think that Kurt does a great job. If you look at Olatunji, right? If we extrapolate what he did in the 6 or 7 games that he played for RSL, he's at 15 goals next year. Does that sound like a DP or a TAM player? Because Kurt got him in on a TAM deal.
Sure. And I think that's absolutely valid. And I think what we also just have to look for is the other side of the coin where Dominic, it's a bust so far. And then you look at Diogo, bust. There's a couple of these players that we spent a good pretty penny on that didn't work out. And it's like, okay, well, there was enough money to sign these type of players. Is that player, a good player in a wrong system? Or is that player not as good as they actually are looking out to be? And Maddie, you make a great point in the chat. He's not the scout. But it does fall on Kurt's name, I should say, when it's that title, where it's just he's the one in charge. And now we have Jason Kreis, president of soccer operations. That was announced. This was an interesting move that we'll have to see what this role actually is, because he's not just over Real Salt Lake. He's over the Utah Royals as well. This is interesting. I don't understand it. I don't understand how a guy has been able, since 2013 when he left RSL, he's moved like a lot of positions, and a lot of those were firings. And so I'm not sure how we ended up here, where he is now the president of our soccer operations. But again, it's kind of hard to say that when I don't necessarily know what that actually means. Like, I don't know if this is just a made-up title, or if this is something that he's going to be very much involved. Like, I don't know what decisions he makes. What does John Kimball make as a decision versus what Jason Kreis? Is he just the talking head? Is, hey, this is the guy who won us an MLS Cup. Is that who he is? Because if that's who he is, then it's like, okay, that's one thing, right? But if he's an actual decision maker in there, I'm a little bit concerned, just because I haven't seen him have success since 2013. That's 12 years of not having that success. And Maddie, I know you're looking at me like that. And on a USA level, sure. I mean, he was an assistant. He's done that. But on all of his coaching experience since he left RSL, he's been fired a couple times. That's not great.
Wait, he went to NYC when they went through we're going to have an expansion team. We're going to bring in old guys from other countries, and we're just going to expect it to work. Please bear in mind that when he went to NYC, that midfield was Frank Lampard, Pirlo, some other old European, and Ned Grabavoy was the best midfielder they had. Okay.
Hey, that's the GOAT you're talking about.
I will fight somebody who says Ned Grabavoy is not the GOAT. Don't think you're going to out Ned Grabavoy fanboy me, because it's not going to happen. I'm just saying, like, losing that job, I don't think that should be held against somebody. I would like to talk to Jason's agent, who told him that a good next step would be Orlando, where he fell into the exact same trap.
Yeah.
Instead of going to a team, I've always wondered, and I hope that there are thousands of alternate timelines and universes where Jason took over Chicago, because I always thought he would have crushed it with any sort of support from an established team. And in Chicago, they do tend to give people a long, long leash. I think if you gave him a couple years to cook, he would have done better. And I hear what you're saying, Hato. I just don't hold NYC and Orlando against the coach, because lots of people have been through those doors.
No, you're absolutely right, and it's completely fair to have that perspective. It's more just for me, I'm like, what's it going to be? Because I want to see success with them again, and that's where, okay, what is your role actually going to be? LD, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
So I guess how I want to frame this with what I'm hearing from Maddie, what I'm hearing from Hayden, is it fair that there might be part of the fan base? Again, I'm not saying this. This is just what I'm trying to paint from what I hear on social media and hearing your guys' points. Is it fair that some from the fan base might think that because this guy had a lot of success with us a long time ago, and it was a great amount of success, and the reason why we're even relevant when it comes to MLS, right, as far as what we were able to do in our history, that's what has brought him to this position in the club. It's kind of this sense of he was here during our glory years from 2009 to 2013 as a coach, right? Obviously, he played with us before that.
Right.
And because he accomplished those things, there's a part of the fan base that thinks, is RSL just bringing him back because he was a staple of this club when we were good at one point? So bringing him back is like their way of maybe trying to like reignite or try to create that type of a culture. And is that enough to earn this type of a position at this point where the league has very much advanced, very much changed since then? Because I can see that. I can see why some people are kind of like, is it the name? Is it his name that's giving him this position? Or are we actually, could we actually have gone and found someone a lot more qualified to do something very similar? I get that he's been with the club for the last, year and a half or 2 years.
Right.
Kind of not auditioning for this. He said in his, I can't remember if it was the press conference or the interview, that he didn't realize that this was what was going to be, the position that he would take on. But, I mean, to be fair, it's not like the club just, took him out of nowhere and said, you're this now, right? Like, he's kind of been auditioning for this in a way to eventually become this, so I will give him credit there. But I do see how there's some fans being like, okay, so we're going to just go back to 2009 to 2013, grab the coach who did really good with us, bring him into the club now, where he hasn't been, I don't want to say, again, successful, like Hayden said, but, he hasn't been able to stay in a position for very long for one reason or another. So now he's kind of back home where he was successful, the last place that he was successful, and now he's kind of going to help us in the front office somehow. Is that fair with what I'm throwing out there?
That's absolutely the conversation, I think, from the fans that are more skeptical on this. And I would put myself in that, where I'm not saying that this is a bad decision. It's just the question I have. I have no idea what this decision even is because, again, I don't know what his role is going to actually be. And so until we see what he does, it's kind of hard to make actual judgments on it. But the biggest question is, okay, why are you here? What is your value? And no matter what, I mean, he's a top 3 most important person in RSL history. So it's absolutely does not put anything on that. But is that why you're here in 2025? I want him to prove that it's not and that he's going to provide tremendous value. Now, David, you made some great points in the comments. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I would just say that one of his big projects since he's been coming on to RSL has been the academy. And our academy this last year has been amazing. Everyone sounded about the U16s winning double those 2 tournaments. That is an MLS record. So one thing that doesn't make me as skeptical as you, maybe, Hayden, is that that was his big project, and he's doing amazing. And from the press conference, he wasn't just our scouting's bad. He was saying how terrible it was. And he did talk about how the transfer windows were not great. And so I do think we have to give credit to Jason that he has done things even in our organization in the last 2 years to show that, he knows kind of what he's doing, and that he has done some things. I wouldn't say his coaching side, but setting up the academy in Inter Miami, working with Kurt Schmidt over there as well, which probably would help this relationship. So that's all I have to really add about it. But I'm pretty excited that he gets to have more of a say, because if he can do with the academy what he into the scouting department and take control of that a little bit more, it's going to be a better season, hopefully, in terms of transfers.
Well, those are absolutely tremendous points, and it's the things that aren't seen everywhere. So, David, thank you so much for bringing those to the viewpoint, because it is really saying this is what he's done, this is why he deserves it. And even to your point, when he was with the United States national team too, a lot of his time was scouting the younger players with the United States national team, and it's been pretty good. The under 20s, the under 18s have been good for for the United States recently, and a lot of that I'm sure can be credited to Jason Christ. So I think that those are very great points. Any other talking points on this subject before we move on?
Just that he brings the credibility of what he did when he was with the organization before.
Right.
That helps with ownership when you're telling them, hey, I need a check for X. It sounds different when it's coming from Jason because he's
Sure.
done it, he's lived it, he's won it, and he's proven that he knows what it takes. So when he says, listen, this is what it takes, he's got the credibility to say that and be heard, I think, in a different way. What you guys don't see if you're not going to Monarchs games, multiple times this season when I was covering Monarchs games, I saw him in the stands with groups of the academy players, talking to them during the game and pointing out what was happening. And, I didn't want to eavesdrop and get close in here, but I'm assuming instructing them. And that kind of instruction sounds one way if it's coming from, Coach Maddie, who coaches a U13 girls team on the side. It sounds completely different when it's coming from a guy like Jason Christ or, Jordan Allen or someone who has been there and they can look up their records and say, wow, this guy knows what he's talking about. He got to the highest levels. I'm going to listen to him and take him seriously so that I can do that. I
Right.
love everything about this move.
Well,
I will
fan-
also say that I was pretty hyped after his press conference. Since the press conference, right, I've been kind of still being like, all right, I'm still wait and see how this is all going to play out. But after his press conference, I was hyped. I do think it's like if you told me that it's either gonna be Jason Christ or someone else, I'll probably just say after listening to that press conference, all right, throw him in there because he understands the culture. Another thing that Maddie made a good point, like when you're trying to prove yourself to the Millers owned the Jazz during obviously the 2009 to 2013 glory years, right? And the Jazz weren't very good during those years, and so I'm sure they weren't like super aware of what was going on, but when you hear that the only other team that won, the only team that has won a professional championship in the state of Utah and is also continuously competing for championships in the state of Utah, was RSL at that point. I'm sure Jason Christ has a lot of pull when it comes to the Millers being like, oh yeah, we remember when you were here and making great things happen with this club, and we want to be those owners that help this club reach those things again, and you were part of that. So like, why not bring you in and try to see if we can recreate that somehow? So I totally understand that. So yeah, I don't think, and the reason I framed that was just because I kind of wanted to see the devil's advocate side of like why we are wondering why Jason Christ
Absolutely.
is there. But overall, I am okay with it. I think after his press conference, I was pretty excited with the energy and just commitment he was and the passion. Right, he loves this team, and that's all I want. Is I want people to care, and you can tell he cares at the end of the day. So I think that's important to understand as well. And again, like David said, he will be frank. He will tell you what he doesn't like and what he does like, right? And I know some people at the club hate that, the way he talks and the way he says things sometimes, but he wears his heart on his sleeve. And so I think that's an important thing to have in this club, where sometimes we feel like things can be not as transparent as they should be. I think Jason Christ does a good job at openly showing how he feels and thinks when things are good and when things aren't good.
Well, I really like that. So let's talk about 2026. Let's kind of change the chapter. We've talked about 2025, everything that really went into this last season, and then the immediate thereafter. Now, in November, a couple weeks after RSL was eliminated from the playoffs, we have all these offseason roster moves. Nothing too surprising. I think the biggest one that was like, oh, that's really sad that he's gone. Zach McMath. I mean, terrific player, goalkeeper for us. He stayed and let himself be the backup through several other goalkeepers that were very young, very inexperienced. He was behind Ochoa. He was behind Beavers. And just being a guy that's willing to let themselves do that without causing a scene, essentially, while still being a good enough goalkeeper to be a starter in this league, which I think he showed that he was. Maybe not on the best team in the league, but he showed that he was good enough at that time to be a starter in this league. And I think that was a very valuable position. And I think his leadership, locker room, everything, I thought was something that he provided. And obviously we have our Cabral, who's going to be the future of this club at the goalkeeper for at least the next couple years. So it makes sense. But really just want to wish him the best specifically because that with the guys out of contract or the ones that had their options declined, Zach McMath was really the one that stood out to me as, yes, it absolutely makes sense, but it's one that hurts to see him go. Maddie, you saying it's Andrew Putna eraser?
Well, you didn't mention him when you were talking about the guys that somehow got to play in front of Zach McMath. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, that's really the only roster news as of then. We do have some previous ones. We'll get to it. Don't worry. That's going to be kind of the last subject we talk about, the window, everything like that. Now, RSL, they came out with essentially a statement. I know David's trying to find it here. They came out with a written statement that was essentially saying what their goals were for 2026. And the biggest thing that stood out to me is the line where it said that Utah soccer in 2026 is going to be essentially bigger and better than it's ever been. And that is a very big promise to make because we've seen an MLS Cup. We've been to the top of the mountain. So to be at the top of the mountain, what does that mean? And that's what I want to talk about where, okay, fans should have expectations of a club, right? But it should be based off of kind of what the club gives them to a point. And if the club is giving them bigger and better than ever, that's a lot. It can't just be, hey, good players are coming to this stadium in the form of on opposing teams. It has to be this team that we support is going to be a very good team. So that's what I'm really looking to and wanting to get your guys' insight is what did you think about that statement? Because that was Jason Kreis, that was his first big thing that he stamped his name on, right? And the picture's loading here, but I'll read it. He said, "Thank you for an amazing and historic year. Your unwavering support motivates our athletes, coaches, staff, and front office. Our season certainly ended earlier than we had hoped, but 2025 was still a memorable year with a new ownership group arriving in April. Real Salt Lake qualifying for the postseason for the 7th time in 8 years. Utah Royals setting a club record with their 8-game unbeaten streak, and the Real Monarchs advancing to the postseason." So a lot to celebrate, right? But the biggest part was this very the last two paragraphs. None of this would have been possible without our fan base and partners, blah, blah, blah. We're excited to build on these successes as we prepare for 2026, where we assure you will be the biggest, boldest, brightest year of soccer in Utah history. What does that mean? Because to me, that means you're winning trophies. If you're saying that, you can't just say all these big, fun words and not back it up. Like those, it sounds fun to have a big and bold and bright year, but the biggest, boldest, brightest was 2009. 2013 was big, bright, and bold. I would take a 2013, but you got to have something. And if that's the Utah Royals doing it, awesome. You cover it because you're covering it in all three aspects, right? The Royals, RSL, and the Monarchs. Someone needs to have some amazing success this year. Otherwise, I'm going to be bringing up this statement. Maddie, we'll go to you first this time. We've gone to LD first the last couple of times. What do you think here?
I mean, I think that what they're saying is you can expect some roster churn, right?
Sure.
When we see the players whose contracts were not the club options that were not used, the players whose contracts expired that were not re-signed, a lot of room has been cleared away. And there have been some names, especially on the lower end of the pay scale, that I was surprised that I was like, do we not need any depth? Really, we're just going to let Matthew Bell leave? I was shocked to see that he left. There were a few more that I was just like, these are depth guys, and they're just going away. I'm fully expecting to see some, or I'm assuming we're going to talk about the rumors about Brian Vera moving to Montreal. I'm assuming we're going to see some other big names leaving as well.
Absolutely.
So that's going to create a vacuum, and I'm expecting to see some big players come in.
Audi, what does this speak to for you?
Yeah, I mean, if fans are reading this, they have to be taking it as more money put into transfers, more expectations when it comes to play on the field, more advancement when it comes to where we are in the table and when it comes to playoffs. I'm sure part of it is that the World Cup is going to be here, right, in 26. And so how does Utah play a part in that when it comes to at least housing, certain national teams, maybe potential, star players that could be here in our facilities. Just the fact that, because the World Cup is going on, I know they're planning to try and have watch parties, through Megaplex and through the
Right.
stadium and things like that. So I think, I think there's different ways that you can look at what that necessarily means. Now, I don't think one can exist. I don't think there can be one and not the other, and you make that statement of it being the biggest, boldest, brightest, year in Utah history. Like, it has to show that they're taking advantage of every opportunity to grow the sport in this state, right? A la the World Cup, Lionel Messi coming to play in Utah. But they also need to back that up with the type of players that they're bringing in, the type of performance that's being shown on the field, the type of results that we expect to get, and us being a competitive team, not just a competitive team in this league, but like actually trying to fight for a championship. And I think if all those things can be hit, then yeah, this can definitely be the biggest, boldest, brightest year in Utah soccer history. But at this moment, we're far away from where we were in 2009 to 2013. And I think it's fair to say that the league has changed. And so, we can't just get back to where we were. We can't just get back to where we were doing what they did in 2009 to 2013 because it's not the same league anymore. So it's going to take even more investment into our club to do those to reach those expectations that we have. And so yeah, I'm excited that they're making those statements, but I need to see it from all aspects of what soccer is, what soccer can be in this state, from growing the sport to also what we see from RSL, the Royals, Monarchs, and the Academy. And it's a tall task that they have. So I applaud them for making that statement. Now let's see them live up to it, I guess.
More and more we see this league going into player versus player in their marketing and their advertising, right? What's the MLS Cup going to be? Messi versus Mueller. You want me to believe this statement? Bring one of those type players to RSL. Okay? Doesn't have to be Messi, there's only one. Doesn't have to be Mueller, doesn't have to be Son, doesn't have to be Tricky Lozano, but it should be someone on that level. What do you guys think that that's in consideration or even a possibility?
I think that it's time to stop believing that Utah is too small of a market to say, because like Vancouver, obviously way bigger market, but was it really thought of that Vancouver was going to go and get a star like that? Like, I think that there are so many of these types of players out there that it's not just for the jersey. It's these guys, they're talented, they're well-known names, and they still have more to give to the game. I think for a long time we've said, and it's because of the Jazz. It's not because of RSL. It's completely because of the Utah Jazz. We do not believe players will come to Utah, to Salt Lake City. Soccer's not like that. I think that there's a very different perspective where, sure, you have your Gareth Bales. They just want to go and play golf. They just know LA is fantastic. You have Messi, where it's like, listen, I'm Lionel Messi. I'm going to go in Miami, and they're going to pay me so much money that you could not even dream of. That's different. We're not approaching those type of players, right? So, Maddie, I think this is the first time where our club is at a standpoint where the rest of the league is doing this. They have so many teams have at least one player where, yeah, they're older, sure. It's probably one of their last stops before retirement. However, they still have more to give. It doesn't have to be a 35, 36-year-old. Like, you look at Benteke maybe. I don't know if I want Benteke right now, but you say Zaha, absolutely. That is a player where it's like, that is a player where you know who he is. He's a very, very good player, and he can come and make a difference right away. Does that mean you're taking a little bit of a leap with the locker room? Absolutely. When you bring in big players, they typically come with bigger personalities. That happens. So I think that that's something that it's not, I don't know if it's necessarily RSL needs to change that. It's our fan base. I'm so sick of that saying this person won't come here. And let's talk about the schedule announcement. Miami is coming to Utah. Guys, Messi will not sit out because it's Salt Lake City, Utah. Messi will only sit out because he's injured. He's not going to sit out and say, Yeah, it's just Salt Lake City. I just don't want to play in that small market. Stop doing that to yourselves. The NBA does it. I get it. The Jazz do that. Soccer players don't do that. Gareth Bale cooked Justin Glad just like Real Madrid and Barcelona. He did the same thing on our turf. They'll do it. Messi will come and recreate the Bayern Munich thing to Justin Glad again if Justin Glad lets him. Like, they'll do it. They will come and embarrass our players because they want to prove it to everyone. So stop pretending that these players are so stuck up, essentially, that they won't play in Salt Lake City, Utah, Sandy, Utah. Now we have to get them to actually play here permanently, not just the players coming to us. But on a lot, like, it's just kind of like those two subjects are the two in the same. I've seen so many people saying, "Oh, he's not going to play here." Listen, we got him. The only bad part is, yeah, we got him on a Wednesday. So does that mean maybe we don't see him the full 90 minutes? Possibly. Like, he's a 36-year-old and he might need some time on a 3-game and 7-day stretch. But last season, when he went to the Western Conference, he had this exact same type of stretch. In fact, it was even more miles traveling, plane-wise. He had to go all the way to San Jose and then on a Wednesday and then all the way back to Miami on a Saturday to play. So more miles, less time. He played 90 minutes in all 3 games. As long as he is not hurt, Messi will be playing. So stop putting yourselves down and get the Jazz fandom out of this, because it's not the NBA. It's not LeBron James saying, yeah, it's just Utah, I'm going to rest against Utah. It's not like that. We don't play 82 games a season against the same stupid teams. That's not how it works. And players will come to Utah if we can give them a good system. They will play for Real Salt Lake if they believe in the coach, if they believe in what we're building, if they believe in the players like Diego Luna, Xavier Gozo, the players around them that can actually make them good. If they believe that they can come and look good, because players don't want to just retire, come out here, play for a couple years and say, oh yeah, I can golf. That's not what Utah is. If they're coming here, it's because they want to compete. That's why Mueller went to Vancouver. He didn't go there for fun. He went there to compete for the last couple years. So if we're going to do that, we absolutely have to. And Spencer says that he has to point out that they didn't go to Vancouver for that match. That was actually a different road matchup. I'm pointing out the Minnesota-San Jose 3-game stretch that didn't have Vancouver included. They sat out because of injury and on turf. We do not play on turf, and it's just Colorado, very close. Shouldn't be too big of a travel thing for them. So different. However, I do absolutely believe they're going to play. But Maddie, it got me on a rant. We have to bring in top tier players, and we have to believe as a fan base, because if we don't believe as a fan base, it's like, is our staff going to believe that they can actually bring in these players? Like, I hope so. But if we're just saying, don't bring them in because they're older, at this point, you have to get one. You have to get one big name. LD, how do you feel about what we need to do?
Yeah, and honestly, I'm not even I don't even care if we get a well-known name. Go and spend 6 to 8 on a really good guy in Europe right now. You know what I mean? That's what
Sure.
I'm asking. He doesn't have to be a guy that, I think of Evander, right? Bring someone who comes to the MLS that nobody really I
Right.
would like to ask MLS fans how many knew who Evander was before he came and made noise in the league, right? Not you're probably lying if you said you did. So bring someone who has that potential. Go spend the 6 to 8 mil. If you want to find a well-known player and spend that money on them, you know what? I'll applaud you for at least trying to go that route, because we haven't done that as a club. But if you can go just spend money on a player that's making noise in Europe, or a league that can translate well over to MLS and become that superstar of the league, or at least one of the superstars of the league, that's all we're asking for. I think that's the biggest thing. The closest
Right.
is Chicho. And while I applaud the club for going after Chicho and the things that he was able to accomplish here with the club, it's still, in the grand scheme of what all these other clubs spend on when it comes to buying their superstar player, it doesn't come close. It doesn't come close to what a lot of other teams have.
And he was a known entity at that point.
Exactly. So I just think if you want to go get someone to the likes of the Thomas Mullers and the Marco Royces,
Emil Forsberg. I don't think our bar needs to be set. sky high, you know?
Yeah, right. But either do that or just go spend some money. Spend some money on some young guy killing it over in Europe that can ball out, that can score goals, that can dish up assists, and we'll be happy. We'll be happy that you at least made the attempt. If he doesn't pan out, yeah, we'll get a little mad. We'll be a little annoyed. We'll say fire Kurt because he doesn't know what he's doing. But like at the end of the day, we're just happy that you're making the attempt to try and do something different than this club has done for a while. Because I agree. Like when you brought up that comment, Hayden, about a lot of Utah fans just feeling like they're always going to be looked down upon and like we don't deserve to have these type of players or players would never even think to play here. Like being removed from Utah now and realizing how that's just the automatic go-to that a lot of Utah fans think, like we really got to get out of this inferiority complex that we got going on in Utah. When I shared a lot of the tweets and comments after RSL announced that Messi was coming to the Inter Miami group chat that I'm in, they were all like, why are they so gloom and doom? They're acting like Messi never plays games. Like literally when Messi's available, he'll play. He doesn't play when he's hurt. That's about it. So yeah, there's the chance that he could get hurt like anybody else could. And yeah, then he probably won't be there. But other than that, like he's there playing games. So I agree. Like I think we got to get out of this whole like, woe is me because we're from Utah. Like we have the ability to make noise in this league just as much as anyone else can. Obviously, it's going to be in a different method, and I'm not saying that we're going to be spending like LA or Miami, but yes, we can bring one player over here that's balling out worth 6 to 8 million, or someone who's a little more well known that we wouldn't usually go for to try and make a difference in this club because we do need that type of relevance in the league. We can't just keep skating by like we have been for a while. So
I do want to put a quick asterisk out there. Please not James Rodriguez. Please, 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 especially in a World Cup year, not James Rodriguez. That man has put his country over his club for his entire career, which, hey, that's what he's known for, and it's terrific, and he is an absolutely terrific Colombian national team player. I do not want that man on Real Salt Lake. Please, 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 please. I'm asking for a really well-known name, not that well-known name. But we're already over our time that I said we wanted to go to, so we're going to hurry and move along here. We obviously have Messi coming to Salt Lake in April. That's huge. It's a big deal. However, my biggest thing is, wish we didn't have a press conference. I thought that was a little bit weird. We're the only team to do that. I did research every single MLS team, and I get it. It's different. We're trying to get the fans involved, but listen, No, Colorado didn't put out a whole press conference. They put out media on it. They didn't have a press conference with their players at it, though. That was the kind of weird thing for me. And I get it. It's Lionel Messi, best player to ever play the game. But if you even just said, if you put out a schedule announcement and you didn't even say the words Miami, you just put out a calendar and all it had was the Miami logo, those tickets would be sold out in seconds. That man's never not sold out a ticket. So I don't understand that whole aspect here. Maddie, go ahead.
Did any of you guys get questions on your social media about whether the Miami tickets were going to be included in people's season ticket packages?
Yeah.
LD, did you get that question in your socials?
yes.
David? I know you weren't really on the team with us when that happened, but were you wondering about it as a season ticket holder?
Not really. I just assumed I would get a ticket, hopefully.
My socials were full of people asking. They did a press conference about the entire schedule being released. And of course, Messi's going to be the front page of the entire season because he's the front page of the league right now. It's not like RSL did something embarrassing by pointing out that he was coming after they lobbied to get him here. Okay? 2.5 years of the league being like, nah, he
Can we
doesn't
talk
need to go
about
to
that? No, we can't get on another. Keep going.
Yeah, we can. This is our podcast. We can do it.
We can say thank you to those who did lobby to get him.
No, can I just say how bullshit it is that we have to lobby? We haven't played Miami at home since freaking 20. We've never had them at home. Why do we have to lobby? It's how the freaking schedule works. We were the last team, us in Colorado, to never have it. I'm not pissed off at our front office or ownership for lobbying. I'm pissed off at the system for making us lobby to get stupid Miami and Messi when they were due because they've never come here.
Hayden,
That's what
I
I'm
have
pissed off about.
Horrible news for you. And I can't believe I have to be the one to break it to you, but life is not fair.
Life is
Okay?
stupid, man.
Things
It's
don't
so
even-
dumb.
Things don't always go the way that they should. Among many other reasons, MLS does not have a balanced schedule. And it's probably never going to have a balanced schedule.
No, it's never going to have a balanced schedule, but Colorado and RSL were the last two teams since when did they come in? 2018? Prior to Messi, regardless, like the Messi part aside, we've just never had Miami's logo on RSL's or Colorado's fields ever. We were the last two, and now we're the two that get them at the same time. It's like, yeah, I get it, but it's also because it's been 7 years. You typically play a new team at your stadium before 7 years, even with an unbalanced schedule.
Did Messi come to St. Louis and I missed it?
I'm not saying Messi. I'm saying Miami. Miami went to St. Louis, didn't they? Yes, they did. Miami went to St. Louis right before because I remember how pissed off St. Louis fans were that they missed it. So every team has seen Miami. I'm not saying Messi.
So for
I
no
get that
reason
part.
at all, not because of the players or anything else, you're just upset that you didn't get to see pink jerseys running around America First.
I'm saying that it's really dumb that we have to lobby when it doesn't make sense to have a team that is in the same league as you when it's never like that just has the Miami logo. That Miami logo should be at every team, regardless of the players, within a 7-year span. That's not that hard to expect, I don't think. And that's why it's so weird that we had to lobby. And it's like, okay, we lobbied. I get it. Our ownership is great, blah, blah, blah. Colorado's ownership, everyone kind of knows that's a terrible ownership situation. So is that a great... Are they a better ownership situation? Because they got the Saturday game, which is the better one. Did they lobby better than us?
Aiden, are you in your 20s?
Yeah, I'm 25.
It suddenly makes so much sense. I remember when I was in my 20s, I thought it was horrifically unfair that I never found myself in a hot tub with Cindy Crawford. And it really brought me down. So I empathize
it's just-
with how you feel that life is.
It's ridiculous that you can't have a team just go to a team because it's that time in the schedule. David, go ahead.
Rather than say thank you to the RSL ownership and management that made that happen, you're going to rant about life being unfair.
Yeah, are we going to say thank you to
Continue.
Colorado's too, though? Because it's like Colorado's ownership has been so bad for a while. They get the
This isn't a
Saturday game. So
Colorado
did they do
podcast,
better?
bud.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like we're saying, oh, RSL did this. Does that mean Colorado did slightly better than our ownership? Because that's what I'm kind of thinking. If they get the Saturday game, did they do slightly better than ours?
We're saying that because we're talking about Real Salt Lake.
I understand. We got them. That's great. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, no worries. I do want to say something that has always been on my mind with this Messi ordeal, right? He's getting a chunk of the Apple TV revenue money, but does RSL see less of it's taking money from all the owners, right, of MLS, but then honestly, all just the Eastern Conference teams get the more benefit of it. That's what I didn't understand, and hopefully, they didn't release all the details of that. Messi's getting 20% of the MLS profits. But obviously, if I'm Nashville, I'm like, heck yeah, Messi's in my league, and I'm going to benefit a lot more than Colorado, Real Salt Lake, everyone in the Western Conference. So I will say that when I saw this, I was like, I think it's kind of owed to us, right? He's taking profit away from our half. Now, it could be minimal, but he's taking 20% of the Apple TV deal. At least that's what it was announced. And I know they just redid the deal, so it might be different right now. But
Right.
I would say that it's a little weird to me how everything has gone down with that deal and everything. But I think it's owed that he and Inter Miami come to Utah. Give the ownership a little bit back of what you're taking.
But they wouldn't have the Apple deal if Messi wasn't coming.
Yeah.
But didn't the Apple deal
so it's
happen
not-
before Messi?
No.
Before they were allowed to announce it.
Yeah. But it was if you
he's not
remember, it
taking-
was
he's not
in the
taking-
works. Yeah.
Right, but
Yeah,
he's
because
not taking
Apple
money
deal
out of a
happened in
pie that was
2020.
baked before he got here. He's taking money out of a pie that he helped to create. The reason that they MLS might have signed a deal with Apple for X amount, when you put Messi in it, it became 2.5 billion. So if he takes a percentage, I personally don't care about that. specific part.
And now they want to take away the pie like 2 years early, I guess. If you
Great.
saw that.
Yeah.
Rumors. Let's see if it happens. Or let's see if, and here's a crazy thought, MLS commits to the idea of putting game changers on every team. Guys like Zaha, Benteke, Chucky Lozano, Thomas Muller. Let's put some of those guys on every team and see if Apple wants to stick around, because personally, I like the Apple thing.
I do too. And it's going to just be on regular Apple TV going forward. You won't need a separate subscription. That's huge. Let's move on really quick to kind of the same, not the same, but when we talk about MLS schedules, the MLS schedule is changing. In 2027, we will be going to the European schedule, otherwise known as the worldwide schedule. We will start in late July, I believe, early August, and we will go until April, and then our playoffs will begin in May. The biggest pros / cons, the pro is that we no longer have our transfer windows really messed up with the rest of the world. We align our transfer windows. I think that's the biggest pro. Another big pro for me is our playoffs are not competing with NFL and college football's peak seasons. Right now, MLS Cup is at the same time as the Big 12 championship. It is during the SEC championship, which I know, like, Maddie doesn't know what those are maybe, but those will be absolutely big eye catchers. Now you'll say, oh, they'll compete with the NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs. I'd rather compete with those than the NFL and college football's biggest games. So they are changing it. My biggest thing is I do think it sucks that we won't get as many summer games. However, the schedule didn't actually change all that much. I think it's only like 2 or 3 weeks different than what it normally was. We have a really big winter break. I'm not excited for that. We probably won't get too many games. It's 91% in the same footprint. Thank you, Maddie. So majority of it is in the same. However, my biggest thing is RSL and code teams, I do believe, are still at more of a disadvantage because of having to play in the cold during winter. Not for games necessarily, but for training. Now RSL, and this is something that we've talked about every single early season, is RSL's having to practice inside. It's different. It's on turf. And then once it's outside, the coaches are, it's great. We're outside again. We're practicing on grass. It's something that's really mentioned every single year. So that's my biggest concern, is now RSL is forced to play on turf for a lot longer. What impact will that have on the legs? What impact will have on the players, and especially in even colder climates than what RSL is in, the Minnesota, Chicago's. Is that just something where it's deal with it, or are teams going to be expected to essentially move their training during that winter break and go to California? Again, I think that is a bit of a disadvantage where Miami's, California's, Texans, they get to stay in their homes. Now, I'm sure the Texas fans are super, super excited about not having to have those July games anymore. And I know I'm excited that Texas was nerfed a little bit. That those road games shouldn't be as bad. Hopefully we can get those in December, November, and February. But overall, I think it's a good thing. I was really against it at first, and then when they came out and said how little it actually changes, I was like, okay. And then you start talking about the windows aligning. I'm like, okay. Again, I do think that the training's going to be a little bit different. We'll see. We'll see how much the fans go to the games in the very bitter cold. I've heard people say, football doesn't have a problem with going in the cold. Yeah, that's different, pal. Very different. That's an apples to bananas comparison. We can't compare NFL and MLS. Not right now. So we'll have to see how that works. I would assume, though, that we're just not going to be playing at home too often in December, November, and February. I'm assuming we'd be gone on the road in some of those warmer climates. So maybe only 2 games are going to be actually cold. 2027 will have a weird season. We'll have a short year. It will be a fake MLS Cup unless we win it. If we win it, it is legit and we can have a parade. If we don't win it, it is a fraud cup and nobody else can claim it. But if we win it, I want that to be known right now. It is legit if it has RSL's crest with it and we can put a star on our crest for it. However, if LAFC gets it, they do not get to claim it as theirs. That is a fake fraud cup, same as Orlando. Any arguments with that, Maddie?
How about if when the inevitable merger comes between MLS and Liga MX, we just play the warm part of the season in the US and the cold part of the season in Mexico?
That would be-
no one thinks it's going to happen. I'm telling you, it's going to happen.
So many teams. That would be so hectic. LD, your thoughts on the schedule change?
Pro rel, baby.
Yeah, it needed to happen. Like, I know there's a good argument for and against it, but at the end of the day, you know, if we want to advance this league and continue to grow it and have it be globally competitive to the point where we're being, I think I checked the rankings the other day. I think we're still, I can't remember if we're right outside the top 10 or if we're the 10th best league now in the world or whatever. But, like, you know, for us being where we're at, you know, geographically and all the money that's going into this sport right now here in the U.S., we have to be able to, you know, be on the same line when it comes to the transfer windows with all these other big leagues.
Yeah.
So I think that's the next step. I think it's the next way that MLS continues to, you know, advance when it comes to, you know, growing this league. And so I think, again, that more than 90% of the games are going to be pretty much in the same span of time that they would have been before this change. And so really what it just comes down to is there's probably going to be, like you said, lesser home games within a certain amount of time when it comes to closer to the winter months. But I agree. I think we were competing way too hard with, or actually we weren't even competing. We were, like, the playoff season really does get drowned out, to be honest, by college football and NFL. We all know that football is king in this country. And so I think it's just a way for us to maybe have a little bit more eyes on us, and then again align ourselves with transfer windows a little bit better when it comes to the actual FIFA transfer windows with the rest of the world. And then hopefully come playoff time, we're not competing as hard against the NBA and the NHL. So it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting, but I think it needed to happen overall.
My biggest thing is, so RSL now will have to compete with, like, in well, I guess we already have to, but let's just say there's a game like a Utah football, BYU football, Jazz, hockey. I guess Jazz and hockey can't happen on the same day, obviously. So those three with RSL going, how many, like, are we going to get sold out tickets on all four of those? I don't know, and that's going to be interesting. Tyler Gibbons came on our show, and we talked about that a bit, and he said that they've had it where they play at the same time as only one of them, and it's not too bad, but we'll just have to see how that works because we'll have a couple more games of that than we used to. Now, again, our playoffs would have been at that same time, but RSL hasn't made a deep playoff run in a little bit for me to be too concerned about that.
If this team is winning games, people will come to the games. If this
Yeah.
team is showing good soccer, people will come to the games. You can have a Jazz game going, you can have a Utah game going, you can have a BYU game going, you can have a Mammoth game going. Utah fans just want to see their teams winning. And if RSL is making themselves relevant in this market, showing that they're competing for a title, showing that they can provide a good, entertaining night of sport to whoever it is that's coming to the game, people will come and watch. And so, really, all you have to do is make your team competitive and good and make those fans believe that you're doing something that puts them in the conversation of having a trophy. And if that's the case, you don't have to worry about it. Like, people will show up. I know Utah
Right.
fans, that's how they are. They just want to see their teams win.
Yeah. All right, I like that. Let's move on to the last part we're going to talk about with Vera. Also, Maddie, I hate to tell you this, Grizzlies are no longer a Utah team. Relocated or relocating to your hometown, New Jersey, home state. Yeah,
Where?
Trenton, New Jersey.
Oh, no. Trenton already had an ECHL team.
Yeah, it was announced back in September. So after the 2025 and 2026 season, they're going to be moving.
That makes me sad. I love going to Grizzlies games.
Yeah, sorry about that. But let's talk about
not
Brian
sorry.
Vera. Fabrizio Romano, who is the world's biggest transfer breaker, but not the world's most important. World's most important is Tommy Bogert, who we have had on the podcast, friend of the podcast, but he unfortunately did get beat on this one. Kind of strange because did not think Fabrizio Romano would be doing an MLS to MLS exchange here. He reports that Brian Vera is set to join Montreal from Real Salt Lake for 1.5 mil plus add-ons. Again, this is not official yet. However, when the big dogs of Fabrizio and Boger are on the call, that's when you know it is just about as close as it is to done as it can get. MLS teams take forever to announce these kind of things. RSL continues the trend of dealing defenders to Montreal clubs. We've recently sent Herrera and Hidalgo. So now we're sending Brian Vera over there. 1.5 mil. And yes, thanks. That's a great clarification, David. Tommy said that this may be in GAM. We don't know if this is just regular money or in GAM. We did buy Vera for 1.8 million a couple years ago, so just slightly less than what we got him for. We'll have to see what those add-ons are. It was a tough season for him. However, I think RSL fans had a special place in their heart for that left foot of his, where he could absolutely put that ball into the back of the net or take out a goalkeeper or someone on the wall, or someone behind the goal might die. So it was really fun when he stood and when I saw that left foot going up, I was like, green light, go for it, whatever. And then, hey, if you need to get a red card every now and then, he has this weird perception that he was like red card guy. He only had 2 during his time. And I'm saying only because like when we talk about it, we're acting like it's a lot more. And only one of them was for doing something like really bad when he punched the guy. Actually, spitting on a guy is not great. That one wasn't great either. So maybe he had 2 instances.
He tried to fight the entire Houston Dynamo by himself.
Which was awesome, though. That was electric. Yeah. I was like, yeah.
Terry and I were at that game, and I was thrilled to find evidence that someone on the pitch had a pulse.
Yes, it was electric. So I'm really going to miss Brian Vera's heart. I think that he just was a guy who cared a lot, and he was passionate about the team. And I think that Montreal is getting a player that I think can perform really well. There was a few rumors that, he might not like being in the United States in general, not just Utah. So it's not a Utah thing. It's just he, maybe homesick, maybe his family just wanted to go to Colombia, something like that. He is going to Montreal, so maybe just moving to Canada will be a little bit better for him and his family. If it's not GAM, then this is, his decision. If it's GAM, then it's something that he couldn't have a decision on. So I hope that he wants to move to Montreal. I'm assuming that they would not make an RSL mistake and take a player that didn't really want to come without getting a huge contract. That's you, Elias Manuel, who is still not doing anything. But I hope that he has good fortunes with Montreal. I hope he keeps his jersey tucked in. And he gets to go after some of the league's best. I mean, the Eastern Conference is loaded right now. I would say it is, for my money, it's better than the Western Conference just with what they have over there. So it's going to be tough, but go and join Hidalgo. Say hello.
He's not the first Latino player we've lost who's either himself or his family didn't feel comfortable being here given the current political climate.
Sure.
If I'm not surprised, again, by any of the roster churn. If you said that we're going to lose one center back, I would have felt that Vera was more likely.
Sure.
Because of private conversations, not just with him, but with Jay. Like, I know how much Jay Glad loves Utah and is, willing to do just about anything to stay. I think he's going to crush it in Montreal. I wasn't shocked to see that he was going, and I wasn't shocked to see that he was choosing to leave the United States.
David, go ahead.
Yeah. No, and just to add, this shows that the FO needs to bring in a pretty big center back because we only have 2 now. We only have Quinton and and Justin Glad. Like everyone else, I know it says we're in talks with Sam Junka. It says that we don't have Kobe Henry yet, Maddie. So it says we're in talks with Kobe Henry, which even if Kobe Henry does come back, he probably will be a 3rd, maybe 4th guy and not a starter. But it is really interesting that they made this move because it shows that they're going to go out and probably bring in someone bigger and hopefully before the start of preseason, which
Has
is
to be,
only,
in my opinion.
yeah, a month and 2 weeks or a month and a week away. So we'll see. Keep an eye out. I know a lot of people put it out there. Walker Zimmerman is on the market. I know what Hayden thinks of that. And I would say that would just be poor scouting if we get Walker Zimmerman, but we've been poor at scouting in the past, so
I think it'd be
wouldn't
lazy.
surprised.
I think
Yeah.
it's the easy answer to make a fan base say, "Oh, you're trying to do something," but I think it's the lazy answer because he's older and I don't think he's at his peak and he's going to want so much money and we're already paying Justin Glad the most money we can without him being a DP. So I'm just like, if you're going to bring in a high money guy, I think you do it, but not with a high money old guy. Center back now moves to number one priority for me. Has to be. We have to get someone to start. I mean, it was one of the top priorities before Brian Vera has been moved, but now it's even bigger. LD, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm gonna miss him. I always really liked Vera. Like you said,
Yeah.
his free kicks were always awesome to see. Just like the wall fearing for their lives as he was about to just absolutely smash into the net. But I think this is an important moment to see the direction that our FO is going to take us as a club. Because at the end of the day, like Brian Vera was a very like solid center back for us overall, right? And so like who are you going to bring in to provide that stability on the back line next to Justin Glad? And you got to get it right. You got to get it right because you know what I mean. The last thing we need on this team is, I mean, we kind of already suffered a little bit from some defensive lapses during the season, but if we can't have a solid back line that can keep us, I mean, luckily we have Cabral back there, and maybe that's their thinking is like, oh, like we can try to experiment because we got
Sure.
Cabral back there, but I still think you need a solid back line because with what we need to do in the attacking phase right now with what players we're going to keep, what players we're going to get rid of, who's going to come in and really be that spearhead at the attack to help us, start putting more goals in the back of the net. Like we need a solid back line to protect that phase as we're trying to figure it out because there might be still a phase where we're trying to figure out how to score goals. And if we're not scoring goals at the beginning of the season, trying to work things out with, new attacking players or new schemes or whatever it might be, we need to make sure that we're at least keeping balls out of the back of the net. And so it'll be interesting to see how the FO goes with replacing him. And if they can show us that, yeah, they got things covered and can bring good players in and keep the ball rolling while we're trying to figure out what we're going to do with the rest of the team. And I saw that David put in DeAndre Yedlin there in the chat, and I agree with that. I think, having Yedlin on the back line is an awesome piece to have for some stability. But, yeah, again, we still got to add a center back, so we'll see how they go about that. But overall, sad that he's gone. But I think it is time for us to find a new center back that can really solidify that back line more so than what we had last season.
Well, I really appreciate all the feedback here. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening to this episode. It was a very long one, an hour 32. We're going to stop it here. Now, RSL, we're going to have to see what the movement is like. We hope that there's some incoming players coming pretty soon. However, we're just going to have to wait and see. Maddie, you have something.
We need one more thing, which is another
Oh, yeah.
assistant coach. And I personally am hoping that it is someone who is well-versed in the art of corner kicks and restarts. Because one thing that Yedlin brings that I haven't heard mentioned here tonight yet so far is the long throw-in that I know Ant Pulis will love.
Well, and so there's the long throw in, but you mentioned corner kicks. There's set pieces as well. I would even say let's maybe go and poach one when he's coming in April. Maybe just don't let him leave. Let's keep him here. Make a deal for his son to transfer his rights over. I don't know if that reunion would ever happen with how messy the breakup was, but I really hope that we could get Javi Mo back here. He's been doing terrific with Miami, but he's also in a spot where with Miami, he's like the guy that talks to the media, the press, everything when Mascherano is out. So I think he's in a good spot there, but I would love to take him, snack him and his son.
How messy The breakup was?
Ah! All right, we're ending it there. All right, so thank you so much, RSL fans, for listening to this. We may be coming out with another episode in December. I would say on the side, probably not, unless any other big news comes. But in January, you'll start seeing us a little bit more often when the official training camp begins, everything like that. Usually we try to do one right after Christmas. However, with the schedule already announced so early, we don't have anything we're planning on having new come out by that time. So unless there's some big rumors, anything like that, I mean, LD's going to be coming out to Utah, so that'll be fun. We'll see him. Maddie, enjoy yourself in Florida. I know you don't like it there, but enjoy the MLS Cup at least. LD, hopefully there's some fun festivities that you can join in. And David, you get to stay here in the cold with me. So good luck with that. RSL fans, thank you again so much for listening. MLS Cup this Saturday at 12:30 Mountain Time. Take some time to watch that. Root for Vancouver to save the league. Thank you so much. We will talk to you all next time.